God bless everybody today. It is May 8th of 2024, and the perfect storm I was warning about 4 months ago is on our doorstep. So let's go into a video. I did this video approximately 4 months ago on December 23rd, before Christmas of 23. Talked about how Turkey was going to come into this game, and they are. They're setting up the border zone in Iraq, the 200 by 25 mile border zone, and then you also got him getting ready to invade into Syria, to go into Tyre and Gaza to help the Palestinian people. And I talked about how 2 Kings 24 verse 1 and 2 mattered to this prophecy. Now, when I did the video, I was talking about we had not made all the conversion changes that we just have today on the calendar. I just posted those videos. So realize that the old date that I was looking at was in January, but that all moved due to the conversions, and now we know the actual dates and things, that things are going to happen. And I talked about how this was going to happen around May and June of this year, and how Erdogan would be down in Turkey, or I mean, excuse me, Tyre, by around July of this year, and possibly Gaza by October of 2024. So I'm going to just start this video. I'm going to splice it to this video so you can see it. And it basically goes over everything that I had been talking about, and this is just getting ready to happen. So it's extremely important we understand the context in the Bible and why this is occurring. God bless everybody today. It's December 23rd of 2023. I wanted to bring this information to you. I think it's extremely important. I've been talking about that December 22nd of 23 date for some time, which is 10 Tevet. And we seem to be having this buildup of 2 Kings 24, where we have those proxies getting ready to an attack or do an invasion, potentially through Hezbollah in the northern and eastern portions of Lebanon, Golen Heights, and the West Bank, could potentially do an invasion into Jerusalem or Israel and start to siege Jerusalem. So in my paradigm, when I had changed those dates from Gregorian to Hebrew calendar dates, it went to from 10/10 of 23 to December 22nd of 23. And I know nothing happened on the 22nd, but what I want to bring to your attention is maybe we should be looking at the original siege date of 10/10 when it happened in 588 BC, BCE, depending on how you look at it. And it looks like we have this buildup of Hezbollah and these attacks from Israel into Lebanon, West Bank, and Golan Heights, that this is starting to see a buildup. So maybe we need to be looking at the original siege dates, and that's not easy to find. It took me a while to actually go and find this date of January 15th. So maybe we're looking at a buildup between now and January 15th. Now, I don't know if this is going to happen. Like I say, I'm an analyst. When I find pieces of information, I bring them to your attention because it's extremely important. We did see that potential invasion and attack by Israel on October 9th, and that seemed to play out. But this one didn't quite play out, and so let's expand this into the future. I want to show you what I found. You tell me what you think, if you want to comment. But I'm looking into the future another couple 3 weeks here, because January 15th could matter, and so I think it's extremely important. So let's look at this real quick. So on January 15th, we have a siege on Jerusalem, which begins in 588 BC. Now, this is Nebuchadnezzar II. Okay. There was a siege in like 425 BC, but that was a totally different thing. We're looking at the 588 BC. Many centuries ago, on January 15th, 588 BC, as nearly as most historians can figure out, and it is hard to figure these things out. So we're trying to figure out what date we would potentially see a siege on Jerusalem by its proxies, as indicated in 2 Kings 24. We would see Lebanon, Golen Heights, West Bank, Syria, Iraq, all attack basically at the same time and possibly do an invasion. Then that would have potentially a capture of a president or leader of Israel that would be taken back to Turkey. And this is about Turkey, so I consider Nebuchadnezzar II here, in this case Erdogan of Turkey. But if you go to 2 Kings 24, it indicates that the proxies would siege first, and Turkey would prepare to get ready to do an invasion. And hopefully I can show you that. And then it indicates that I think this is extremely important. This is something we need to be looking at, that when he laid siege to Jerusalem, we should be looking at 2 Kings 25, because it describes the siege, the famine, and the final defeat of 2 years later, approximately 18 months, like I've been talking about. So it's extremely important that we look at all these dates, and it looks to me like this is starting to form. So maybe we're in the proximity or the ballpark of the dates, and it's literally a date that happened in the past. Like I've talked about, it happens in the past, not necessarily in the future. I don't necessarily know these dates. They're extremely hard to find. So it's extremely important, though, that I think we try to line this up with what's happening today, because I keep talking about this parable of the fig tree and how this all happens to happen before May 14th of 2028. So I think it's extremely important that we look at how he's laid this out. And I keep saying this is a past to future prophecy. It will happen almost exactly the same. I may be wrong on this, but it sure looks like it's playing out. And he gives you all these indications in the Bible that give us a pathway to the future. And he said, in my opinion, he would tell us all things before they happen. So I'm guessing he's trying to tell us something here. So I found this other article. I just want to bring it to your attention. I don't really promote anybody's work. I'm just trying to find when in history in 588 BCE that this actually happened. This is a cross-reference from a man that wrote an article about this. He also indicates it's January 15th. These dates are extremely hard. Now, in my paradigm, the siege lasts till like August 4th. He's indicating it lasts till July 18th. So that's what I mean. There's some, nobody's for sure. It's hard to go back 2,000 years and try to figure out just exactly what day a siege came onto a city. Based on what I've found, and there's not a lot of information out here, so I'm sort of guessing on this. But maybe it is original siege that happened in the past on that very specific day, which would be around January 15th. We're watching this build up right now of Hezbollah, and how Israel is doing bombing, and Hezbollah is launching barrages of missiles, and so we've got all these different things. Another thing that we have to watch is when Israel goes into Hezbollah and starts to create this buffer zone that they're talking about, there's a tunnel structure underneath this area too, because that's what they've been doing, building tunnels and stuff. So this is going to be the same problem that they're having down in Gaza with Hamas, that they're going to end up with Hezbollah up north, and they're going to realize that they're entrenched in another tunnel war and a similar situation as what they've had. We just saw the UN pass another resolution to try to get another ceasefire or stoppage of the war because of the humanitarian crisis down there. And they talked about potentially now over 20,000 people have been killed, and who knows how many injured. And so I just wanted you to realize that this is a possibly extremely important day as we work through the next 3 weeks, and we can watch this build up on this front of Israel to Lebanon, West Bank and the Golen Heights, that this might be something that could truly and easily build up in the next 3 weeks. So I just want you to realize this date could be extremely important. And another thing that caught my eye was when I Googled Ezekiel, and it can be spelled a different way also, depending on what Bible and Hebrew different things you're using out here, but it's Ezekiel 24, okay? And we're talking about that ninth year of the 10th month of the 10th day. We're talking about Reuben Revelin, which is Zedekiah. This would be in 23 because he was a leader in 2014. 9 years later, it's 2003, 10th month of the 10th day. That took me to from the Gregorian calendar of date of October 10th of 23 to the Hebrew calendar date of 10 Tevet of this year, which was December 22nd of 23. But then it says here that it was on January 15th during the 9th year of King Jehoiachin's captivity. So that's really interesting that you would see that date here in Bible Gateway when you Google Ezekiel 24, and it indicates that we have potentially a date of January 15th, which is when this siege happened. And it indicates right there that on this very date, the king of Babylon began his attack on Jerusalem. Now, if you go into 2 Kings 24, it indicates on that very day that Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, would come upon him, and he would basically get ready to attack. I say it's an invasion approximately about that time. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the invasion won't happen on January 15th, but it indicates that the Turkey, or the king of Babylon in this case, in the future, and Jehoiakim became his servant all about the same time. And so I'm looking at this possible invasion of Turkey, potentially in the next 3 weeks, sometime either during that time or on the 15th or just after that. We would see Turkey invade, and then it talks about these 4 different regions that will actually attack Israel. We talked about that in my last video about how we would see the proxies of Iran originally attack. They're not going to be actually proxies of Turkey, because when Turkey gets into this battle, because they're Lebanese and Palestinians, they're going to follow the Muslims and not necessarily Iranian groups of people. So when you look at these 4 bands, we have to look at them and realize that they would be the ones actually attacking originally, and Turkey would come in later. And actually, if you go into that one article, so when I took you to this article about Jehoiakim, when you come down here, it indicates in the month of November or December, we're in December, the king of Babylon assembled his armies. And so maybe we're going to start to see Turkey, now that the UN really isn't going to stop the war, they're not going to get a ceasefire, they're just putting more humanitarian aid into the country. The Turkey's going to start assembling his armies before the end of this month, and he would invade sometime before the end of this month or the beginning of next month, lay siege to Jerusalem, and on the 2nd day of Adar, 18 months later, they actually break into the city. But it sort of indicates that around November, December, possibly, if it works off history, we would see the assembling of the army in possibly the end of this month, and then a siege into Syria, and then by March 16th, we would literally see on 2 Adar the city basically taken over. So I think it's important that we understand that Nebuchadnezzar, or Turkey's getting ready to invade. It's not necessarily at the same time that we see the original attack on Jerusalem, but they're going to be
basically headed by Turkey, because when Turkey gets in this game and they've had all those meetings, I believe that they'll just abandon Iran and they'll go to the Turkish side of this equation, and all those weapons that Iran's been funneling into these Lebanese armies in Hezbollah and down in Gaza through Hamas will basically fall into the hands of Turkey, because they'll be through Turkey's proxies and not Iran's proxies. Once Turkey gets in the war, these proxies will change their allegiance to the Muslims, not necessarily to the Iranians. So we talked about how Jehoiakim would be potentially captured on that day, potentially January 15th now, because it's moved forward. As we can see, it didn't happen on the 22nd. And like I say, that I may be wrong on all this. I'm just showing you that if you look at what's happening out here right now, we're having a buildup of potential a war between Hezbollah and Israel, that we need to at least look at these options. And I think that because it does, in my opinion, happen from past to future, almost exactly identical, because God gives us all the information in the Bible, that we should be looking at these things. So we went through here, we talked about how Jehoiakim is basically captured right on that day that these groups start the siege. It indicates that his son would take over. He's approximately 18 years old. I don't know how old Isaac Herzog's kids are, but it would possibly be the youngest one. He would reign for 3 months, 10 days. Then Nebuchadnezzar would siege the city in March of this year, as I've shown on the paradigm. He would actually take the city over. I believe that's on March 16th or 2 Adair. And then we would see Nebuchadnezzar or Erdogan actually put another leader in place, which is Zedekiah. So you can come down here. Zedekiah begins to reign. It's in his 11th year in Jerusalem, which is interesting, because if you go to Zedekiah, if he's put in March, and then he goes, well, I was going from December or January, 18 months forward, that ends up in August of 25. And that's interesting, because if you look at the reign of Zedekiah in his 11th year, well, that's 25, because you go from 2014 to 2025, 11 years later. So it seems to work with the paradigm still. And I'm not trying to grab dates here. I've had this date on there for a while. I've indicated that he would be taken away when Zedekiah would be removed after he tries to escape to the plains of Jericho, and then he's captured, his eyes are taken out, his 2 sons are killed, and then he's taken away. But that happens in like August of 25, so about 18 months later. So it does make sense that that could possibly happen. And so you have this transition from Isaac Herzog to the son of Isaac Herzog to Reuben Revlin, which is Zedekiah, as you move forward in the next 18 months. But then if you go to 2 Kings 25, it talks about these same exact dates. So in the 9th year of his reign, Zedekiah's, who we're talking about here, in the 10th month of the 10th day, this king comes against against Jerusalem and sieges it, as it indicates here. And the city was besieged until the 11th year of Zedekiah, which Reuben Revlin was in place between 2014 to 2021. He's a past leader, but he's going to be put back in. And so his 11th year would be 2025. Talked about August 14th. That one article indicated it potentially could be July. So, there's some variations here in dates. I'm trying to fall as many of these dates as possible. And it indicates on the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine prevailed in the city. I talked about that on my paradigm. That's also, we see no food left in Jerusalem. The famine's gone on extremely long. 18 months is a long time with no food in a city, and then the city is broken up and basically everybody's taken away. It's interesting that the Chaldees, which are one of the 4 groups in 2 Kings 24, are the ones that pursue this king Zedekiah on the plains of Jericho and scatter his armies. And like I say, they kill both of his sons, and Zedekiah, or in this case Reuben the rebel, does have 2 boys. And then they take his eyes and then they take him to Babylon. So I just mainly wanted to point out this January 15 date. And as we see this buildup of Hezbollah attacking Israel, as Israel keeps hammering Hamas, and we see this also ramp up in the northern and eastern portions of Lebanon, West Bank, and Golen Heights, that we're going to see a retaliatory strike from Hezbollah onto Israel before long. Could happen in the next 3 weeks as we work into this January 15th. Maybe he's alluding that we need to look back in history, as I've always indicated, and I'm still looking into the future dates when we should be looking at the original dates when these sieges originally occurred and how they affected them in the past, how that will affect us in the future. So God bless everybody. Keep the open door. Find Jesus, and God bless.